What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the workshop. I hope you're all keeping well. Now, in this video, we're going to build a chessboard fit for a king, heirloom quality, something you can pass down to your kids and your grandkids. So it's a beautiful hardwood chessboard. We have maple and walnut for our contrasting woods. A nice, simple walnut frame with a delicate inlay just to make it all pop, and we give the board a three-dimensional look with individually chamfered squares. So without further ado, let's crack on and jump into this project. And we also have a catastrophic mistake made that we have to make a repair in, and it all turns out good in the end. So stay tuned for that. Let's do it. Guys, there we go. There's all our pieces cut to just over 50 mil. So I've left myself just a little bit extra on each one, about 1 millimeter, just so I can dress the edges. Because sometimes you don't get a perfect cut off the blade. I can see some blade marks here, which will just give me a little hairline gap, which I don't want. I want a nice tight gap as I can get. So I left myself just a little bit extra so I can run my hand plane down each side just to get a perfect gap. Now I've just orientated them to make sure I have the best grain. As you can see, that's very light walnut on this side, so I want that side up, so that'll give me the best contrast and the best looking grain. So like it's 8 squares by 8 squares, so it'll be 400 by 400, so obviously 850s is 400. So you can see I'm just at about 405 millimeters. So about 5 millimeters extra to play with across all boards. It's adding up to about 5 mil there. So like I said, that's just so I can plane the back to get a perfect joint. Now it's also oversized this way, so it's at about 500 mil this way. So I have an extra 100 mil actually spare in case I need to do any cuts. If the glue up is not quite right, I can square up the edge and then chop up my pieces. So my next thing to do is just make sure these are all perfectly jointed, make sure all my gaps are nice and tight. So I think I'm pretty happy with that orientation. I might swap that one with that one maybe. I'll work on this till I get my orientation right so that I have, you know, nice spread of nice grain to match it up, and then I will number them 1 to 8. That'll be my orientation. I'm going to plane all these then for a perfect joint, and then I want to put a V groove between all the squares. So I'll crack on and prep all these. We'll jump back in and put the V groove in. Okay, I'm going to do this on the router table. I could do this with a hand plane, but just for expediency and quickness, I'm going to do it on the router table. So I'm going to put a 45-degree chamfer on each side of each of these pieces. I have a V cutter in the router, and that has a 45-degree edge on it. So that's what I'm going to be using. I have it set up so it's at the midpoint is just inside my fence, and I have it already tested like I said. So we'll just run these pieces through it. Not much more to it than that. Okay guys, all the chamfers are cut, so we have a V groove then between all our pieces. Now, some of the cuts aren't as clean as I would like. The cutter kind of struggled a little bit with the maple. Should have done it with the hand plane. I always do this, always doubt myself. Oh, I have to be accurate, so I'm going to use the machine. When I know I can be accurate with my hand plane, I've proved it to myself hundreds of times. Doubts enter your head, you stick it on the machine, and the machine is never as good as the hand plane, I find. So I should have hand planed them. But however, we are where we are. Now I also made a mistake. On this piece, I chamfered the wrong side. Of course I did. So I had to flip it around and chamfer this side. So I have a chamfer on both sides. But it's the bottom of the board, which will never be seen. So you will never know. So yeah, I suppose if you've never made a mistake, you've never made anything. Isn't that what they say? Right, so I'm almost ready for glue up now. So we will be gluing the boards together in this orientation. And I'm going to prepare for the glue up and set myself up so I can clamp all this stuff together. And we'll jump back in then. Okay guys, I am all ready for the glue up, so I kind of know my plan of attack here. So I'm just going to crack on and do it. So I have just some plastic just to protect the bench. I don't want to cover my new workbench in glue. I have my parallel jaw clamps all set up here. I have a couple of clamping coils on top. I don't need to put any plastic or anything on these because with the V grooves, the glue is not going to reach the top. So there's no danger of me gluing these pieces of walnut to the top of my board. all the squeeze out I want to come out at the bottom. So yeah, we should be good to go. So I'm going to crack on and do this now. I'm not going to do too much talking. I'm just going to glue this up. I don't have to pay too much particular attention to keeping either end square, because we will be squaring. Like I said, we have 100 mil or 4 inches extra material, so I can square off the ends of these after the glue up from the edges. So we'll do that on a cross-cut slate. So again, I don't have to pay too much attention to either end of this board, keeping it square. Just want to get good clamping pressure all the way across and keep it as flat as I can possibly keep it. That's the only thing I have to worry about. So I'll crack on and glue this up now. And yeah, you guys will see me again, I suppose, when it's all glued up. Okay guys, there we go, all glued up. Kept it as flat as I could possibly keep it. Again, don't have to keep the edges square, we can square them to the sides when this is all glued up. So yeah, nothing to do now but wait. We'll let that glue set up for a good few hours, let it get good and strong. Then we can square up our edges and start doing our cuts for our second glue up. So yeah, I'll see you then. Okay guys, glue up part number 1 is completed. So that turned out quite well. Now I have some squeeze out in the V groove. I could have put a glue line in to stop that coming through, but I don't think it's going to be too hard to clean out. Maybe a little bit awkward, but we'll leave that. I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to leave it till we're finished, because I will be gluing up another way as well, and there will be a little bit more squeeze out. So we'll correct all that when we have the final glue up done. But I just scraped the underneath, removed any excess glue from the bottom of it. So we are good and flat. There's no rocking, and it's making contact in all 4 corners, which is good. So we kept our glue up nice and flat, which is what we want. Now we've got to take this to the cross-cut sled. We've got to square this to its edge, and then we have to slice this up into our 50 mil squares yet again. Let's do that. Okay guys, I have the cross-cut sled on my tail saw. Now, long-time viewers of my channel, you will remember this cross-cut sled. I did a full video on building this. So this is ideal for the next stage of this process. So I have my cross-cut blade. My fine-tooth blade is now in the saw. My very first job is to do a truing cut. So I know this back fence runs exactly 90 degrees to my blade. That's the whole point of a cross-cut sled. So I will do a truing cut first. Then I will set my stop block to 50 millimeters exactly, and we will take our 8 cuts to get our 8 squares. So let's do that. Okay guys, there we go. So all our pieces are cut up on the cross-cut sled, so they're all exactly squares now. Now I ran it back over the router again, so I had a spare piece left over off the end, so I used that as a test piece, and the router bit actually cut the end grain a lot cleaner than the side grain, so that's actually, it was handy to have a test piece, so that's what I done. So I took them all back to the router table again and routed that other side in. So now you can see, if we just roughly get these lined up, you can see how it defines all those squares. There we go. So roughly, so you can see every square now has a V groove between it, and it's just a nice little extra detail. It kind of gives this board a little kind of a 3-dimensional effect, and I think it looks quite cool indeed. Now obviously we have a lot of cleanup and stuff to do on this, and but we're going to do our second glue up. Now for our second glue up, we have to keep our ends perfectly flat. So we have to pay particular attention on this glue up, because our board is dimensioned to its final dimension now. There's no more to remove, so our glue up has to be perfect. But it shouldn't be too hard. So now I've also just sanded in between all the V grooves there. Actually not the first time around, I just forgot to say it before the glue up as well. So I just took a sanding block, a bit of sandpaper, and sanded all these before I glued them up, because obviously it's going to be a little bit tricky to get in there. But we will have glue up and glue to clean out in between all these, but not too much. Right, it's time for the second glue up. Okay guys, there we go, all glued up. It is almost perfect. There's just probably a hair in it on some of them, but almost actually perfect. That glue went off fast. It's the fastest I've ever seen glue go off. Literally clamped it and it stuck immediately. So it didn't allow me to get too much adjustment. So yeah, that was kind of panic stations there. But it's glued up, it's flat, and it's almost perfectly aligned. Actually, you wouldn't even see the discrepancy. You can just feel it when you rub your finger along the edge that they're not perfectly square, but a little rub of a hand plane, we won't even notice that. Okay, I'm sweating now. I can go and have a cup of coffee, I think, and let that set up. Okay guys, it is a couple of days later for me. It is a few seconds later for you guys. It's all glued up now, so the glue up went well. That glue went off fast, like I said, but it worked out pretty good. Now, I've just sanded it all up. I've been working on it, and I've also added a 6mm plywood base to the bottom of it, just to give it some extra stability, stop it twisting or warping, and also to give it some extra strength, because when you move those pieces around, some of the pieces are actually gluing end grain to end grain, so it's not particularly strong. The glue can disappear up the end grain, and that's what causes the joint to weaken. Actually gluing end grain to end grain with glue is not actually particularly that much weaker. It's just that the glue disappears up into the end grain. But that's where I'm at. It's all sanded up now. Sanding it up was pretty simple. Just took a block with a 90-degree corner, and you can just slide it between all the chamfers like that. Very, very quick and easy to sand up. So yeah, this is where we're at. I need to put a border on it now. So I've been scratching my head over the last few days. I've actually been sharing all the stories on Instagram. Some of you guys may or may not have seen it. I've been doing updates over there on Instagram stories. So definitely follow me over there if you're not already. I'll link it below in the description. And what I'm trying to do is match it to my oak resin coffee table that long-time viewers of my channel will remember. That's where it's going to sit. Now, the only thing is I have no more of that oak. That's the last piece of that slab that I have left. So I wanted to incorporate some of it into it. We're going to try do that. But what I'm decided on for now is going to be a simple, plain walnut border all the way around, and then I'm going to take one of these pieces. This is our offcut or our spare piece that we have left. I'm going to cut this into strips, and I'm going to use that as an inlay. So I will reverse it so that it is the opposite color to the side that it's on. It'll all make sense in a minute. So I'm going to cut that into strips and inlay that then into our walnut border. So without further ado, I'm going to cut this walnut border, and then I have to decide on how to attach it. I think I'm going to cut a groove all the way around the board and a groove in the border all the way around, and we will put a long tenon piece between the two, and we will join it that way. So yeah, without further ado, let's crack on and do that. Okay guys, my picture frame is all done. That's fitting nicely for now. Still needs a little bit of fettling, but we can do that in a little while. Now I want to cut a groove in this picture frame all the way around. So I'm going to use some 6mm birch ply as a floating tenon. So that's going to sit in there like that, and we're going to do a groove in the board as well, and that's going to fix our frame to our board all the way around. That's how I'm going to do it. Now I'm going to cut the groove in all these pieces, my frame pieces, with the plough plane, just because it's nice, quick and easy, and it's nice and quiet. I might not be able to do that on the board because that's end grain and this side is end grain. So yeah, the plough plane won't go through end grain too easily. So I might have to just run these bits on the router table. So that's what we'll do. I'll crack on, and I'll start cutting some grooves. I'm just working it from both sides so don't blow out the end grain. And there we are, just down to depth now. So you can use a plough plane on iron grain, so long as you have a razor sharp bit. It's not too bad. That will do the finest. Yes, that's a good snug fit. Okay guys, there we go. Groove cut all the way around. Groove cut in our side pieces. So we just slot in our floating tenon just like that. A piece of plywood there. And we can take our piece. I have the right number. There we go. And hammer that on. Glue that in place then. That'll be a good strong frame all the way around. And it should help, I think, hold the miters as well, because that piece is caught all the way along. So yeah, there we go, as simple as that, not much more to it. Now, I'm going to go sand up all these pieces and then I'm going to glue them on, and that's going to be a job for tomorrow. So, tomorrow for me, a few seconds for you guys. Right, now I'm just going to put the frame on. Again, it's just going to be a little bit of bead of glue. I don't want too much squeeze out at this stage. So we're just going to do a bead of glue either side, and then just a bead of glue on the tenon itself. And I have these numbered so I know which way around they go. Now I'm going to crack on and do this. I'm not going to hang around because this glue will go off. It's quite warm in here. So I'll get this done. When it's all glued back up, I'll show you guys. Okay guys, back at it again. Let me catch you up to where I'm at now. So the frame is all glued up. I've given everything its initial sanding, so it's looking quite well indeed. Now, I want to fit the inlays. That is going to be my next task. I've decided not to put any feet on it. I had a go at trying to get some usable timber out of that piece of oak that I had, and it just couldn't. The grain is running in the wrong direction. There's lots of splits in it. It just disintegrated. So that's out. So I'm actually decided not to go with any feet. Keep it nice and flat. It's sitting lovely as it is. And I'm just going to add an extra decorative detail to this frame now. So that's what I'm at. So I've cut the spare set of squares that I had into 6mm strips or 1/4 inch strips. So that matches the thickness of the blade that's now in my plough plane. And I'm going to use the plough plane to put a little trench in the middle of the frame on each of the 4 sides. Then I'm going to glue in some of this and I'm going to plane it right back down, and it'll just give a nice little effect in that border. So that's what I'm at. Let me get you in for a closer look and I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay guys, hopefully that's a good angle. I've already started this little one here, so I've just set my plough plane up so that it's dead center of my frame, and I'm just working in that trench. So I've just put a little wall on the end here with a 6mm chisel, so just knock that in. That gives me something to work towards. And obviously, because I'm not working off the edge, I just have to be careful and I have to stop that plane, that's all. So I just got to take note and take account as I get to the end of this that I'm not being too aggressive, because I don't want to overshoot my chisel wall, which is right there. But other than that, we can plough away as normal. And again, obviously paying particular attention when I get to this end as well. I don't want to overshoot that mark either. So I'm not going to go too deep. About 4mm, 4 or 5mm is going to be loads. And then we'll be able to glue in that strip. And I'm going to keep it the opposite way around to the colours that are already there. So it'll go black, white, white, black, if you know what I mean, rather than having it that way. I think it's going to look best if we keep this little thing running in the opposite ways to the squares, just to highlight it that little bit more. So that's the plan. I'm going to crack on now and do this. And I'll try and take you guys through it step by step. But I just got to pay particular attention to the end here. Okay, so my little trench or groove is nearly cut now. Now the problem with the plough plane is obviously it has a guide on the front, and that guide will ride on the material that's in front of it. So what will happen if you're not going all the way to the edge is that you will shallow out as you get to this end, and you will be shallow here. So the trench will run down and then it will run back up again, because the guide will run out on this part here that you're not actually wanting to plane. So that will stop the blade from cutting down. So we're just going to have to cut either end of the trench then just with the chisel. But we've established a little wall here with the plough plane, so we can work to that. So, and again, we're not going down too far. So I'm just going to, with the chisel, just knock that down a small bit. And I can take that material out then with the 6mm chisel. And I'm going to go bevel down because I don't want it digging down into the material. Just as simple as that. Okay guys, that's the first trench or groove established. So that's going to sit in there just like that. So I'm going to glue that in place and I'm going to plane it flush, and it'll just give us a nice little detail in our border. So I'm going to crack on and do the other 3, and I'll get these glued back in, and then when it comes to planing them, I will show you guys. So I'll crack on to that. It's just me repeating the same process over and over again. So I shall see you guys momentarily. Okay guys, I'm just finishing up the inlays. So I glued in the strips that I cut up. They are all glued in and in place, and now I'm just planing them back just to get them all nice and flush. There's a few little gaps here and there that I'm not overly happy with, so they're not perfect, but you know, they're not too bad. A little bit of tidying up and you won't even see it. But I'm just planing them flush because it's nice and quick. I'm not going to use my flush trim saw. I just don't want to damage anything, so this is just the safest way to do it. It only takes a few minutes. Okay guys, that is the inlays all done. Now I have one little problem here. So I slipped with the plough plane when I was cutting this groove, and I took a nice piece out here. So it's not something I can fill with sawdust and glue. It's something I'm probably going to have to make worse in order to make better. So we have a repair to do here. So I'm going to do my best. It's never going to look 100%, but we'll try and match it as best we can. So I might just have to chop in a piece here, I think, glue it in and then plane it flush just to cover this, because yeah, it's not something, like I said, we'll fill with sawdust. So let's try and do that. Okay guys, just to show you what I'm talking about, so you can see right along here, I took a chunk out of this with the plough plane, just caught the edge, and it just lifted this piece up on me and took a nice piece out. So it's not something I'm going to be able to fill with sawdust. I can't plane down to this either because my inlay is not deep enough. So I've got to try and patch this. So I have a piece that roughly matches the grain. It's not an exact match, but it's close enough. So I'm going to have to chop a little groove here in this section, clamp that down and glue it in, and then plane it flush. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. We'll see if we can make this look a little bit better. Okay guys, there is the repair along there. It's not too bad, it's not perfect. Like, you will see it if you look closely, but it's subterfuge, so you know, unless you put your eye on it, it's not something that's going to stand out, and it's a lot better than leaving a big gouge mark. So it is what it is. Now I'm going to crack on and start sanding. Okay guys, there we go. All the inlays are in place, including some repair work. So it's not looking too bad now. I would have liked my inlays to be a little bit neater, but it is what it is now at this stage, and it's all practice at the end of the day. Now, I'm contemplating putting a chamfer all the way around the edge of this, just because that's a bit of a sharp edge, and you know, with moving the board around, or if I do lift it on off the table, the intention is for this to stay on the table, but you know, in case you want to put it away, if everyone needs to put it away for whatever reason, you're having a few drinks, you have people over, you want to put it away so people can put their drinks on the table, that kind of thing. I might just put a chamfer just to protect this edge so that it doesn't get any chips, because it's a bit of a harsh edge at the minute. So I think a little chamfer all the way around. I'm going to do that with the hand plane. I'm just going to eyeball it, and it'll be a nice little decorative edge, and it'll help protect that edge as well. So without further ado, I'll crack on and do that, and lots and lots of sanding, and then we get the finish on it. Okay guys, there we go. We are all sanded up. So it's as good as it's going to look now. So I'm going to get the finish on it. It's ready to go. So I'm going to use an oil finish. Now a lot of people do use a lacquer finish for these. I like that highly lacquered, glossy shine look to their chessboards. Me, I prefer an oil finish, a kind of a satin finish on my projects. So that's why I always use oil. I don't use any of the lacquers or the sprays or that kind of thing. So it's all cleaned off. Let's get the oil on it. Okay. Let's get its first coat of oil on, and we'll just apply this liberally across the board, let it run through all the cracks. I do love this part of every project, the way it just makes it pop. Now you can see the contrast in the inlay. So even the fact that we use walnut inlay in walnut, because the grain is moving in different directions, it still stands out, which is nice. And even a repair, you know, and you can see it if you look for it, but if you're standing 10 feet away, you'd never spot that, which is all we can hope for at this stage. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that is turning out, guys. It's going to make a nice addition to my coffee table. Okay guys, there we go. The chessboard is now complete. So I've got a couple of coats of oil on that now, so it just has a nice satin sheen to it. Not a high gloss finish. Like I said, you can, if you want, lacquer this up. Some people like that look. It's not for me. It's just, that's just a question of taste. There is no right and wrong way. So everything is done now. I'm really happy with how it turned out, even though there is a couple of little flaws here and there in the inlay work. But hey, it's all practice at the end of the day, and we can only improve as we go. So there we go, guys. Maple and walnut hardwood chessboard. I have the pieces on it now. So these pieces are all wooden pieces. Just a set I got off Amazon. It's a nice set, and they weren't very expensive. They're tournament quality or size by all accounts, and I think they really suit this board altogether. Now, a couple of things I should address. I was sharing this project as I went along on my Instagram stories, and I put up a story as well on YouTube, and some of you guys were in the comments were worried about the chess pieces falling over, that if they went into the chamfers they might tip over. Well, it's just not possible. No matter where you put the chess piece on the board, you can slide it across the squares. The squares are all perfectly level, and there's no chance of those pieces tipping over whatsoever. Even the pawns, the smallest spaces, they won't tip over when they get near the edge. The knights have a massive base, so they are definitely not going to fall over. Like I said, all the squares are perfectly level, and the chamfers aren't big enough to have those pieces fall over. So not an issue, nothing to worry about there. It's not a design flaw. If you're thinking about making this board, go ahead. You will have no issue whatsoever with your pieces falling over. So that's it, guys. As always, I hope you enjoyed this build. I hope you got something out of it. I hope it inspires you guys to have a go. It's really not that hard. It's just a few cuts on a table saw at the end of the day, a few chamfers for decorative detail, and a little bit of inlay work, and there you go. The miters, everything worked out quite nicely indeed, with the floating tenons all the way around. It's really added strength to the board. Hopefully they will act like breadboard ends as well and keep this nice and flat, but I don't expect it to move with that plywood base. So that's it, guys. I'm going to get out of here now. I'm actually going to go and have a couple of games of chess. My missus is quite looking forward to it, so I'm going to take this to the coffee table now, and I might have a pint of beer and a game of chess. So that's it, guys. I'm going to get out of here now. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. That really helps me out a lot. Comments, questions below, all your opinions, leave them below. I'll try and get back to you guys if I can. And if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. That's the best way you can help me out. So until the next project, guys, I shall see you then. Take care.